All right, so let's talk about the lack of productivity issue in Canada, because you will hear this topic pretty much all the time in the mainstream media. Even Bank of Canada has also talked about that. And the Liberal MPs are openly defending this claim, saying Canada is one of the fastest growing countries in the G7, which is total BS. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to explain to you, like a fifth grader, what does productivity means, why Canada struggles, okay, and how can we improve it. Stay tuned till the end. Okay, so Fraser Institute, they published an excellent report about why Canada has a decline in productivity, especially in the last 10 years, and how this is going to get further deteriorated over time, because the trend, the projected forecast, is not looking good. Okay, so if you look at this chart, you can see we are comparing ourselves with the OECD countries. OECD has 30 countries in the list, and they are mostly European countries, or there are some Latin American countries as well, which have been producing GDP. Okay, so we're not comparing ourselves with Ethiopia for sure. Okay, so comparing with OECD, and if we compare the average GDP per capita between Canada and OECD, we have been above average for pretty much all the time until 2019. Of course, after 2019, we saw COVID, and it has devastating impact across the world on the economic front. And we saw there was a big, sharp decline, both from an OECD average perspective as well as Canadian average GDP per capita. But the rest of the OECD countries bounced back very well. Canada did not. Canada still struggled, and even we did not meet the previous high that we had in 2019. That is a concerning sign. And if you look at the comparison between 2014 and 2022, we can see Canada is at the third lowest level amongst all 30 countries in the OECD. The top ones are Ireland, Poland, Hungary, Turkey, Slovak, Korea, right? They all have above 2% GDP per capita growth. Okay, this is average growth rate, by the way. It's not actual GDP per capita, it's a growth rate on yearly basis. And we are standing at 0.6%, the third lowest in the 30 OECD country list. Okay, so this is the current status. This is the last 10 years performance as a country from a GDP per capita standpoint. But wait, there is more. When we look at the projections, and this projection is done by OECD, using Canada's own data, Stats Canada's published data. They use the projection, and if we see this chart, we can see by 2060 we will be the poorest performing country in the OECD list from a GDP per capita perspective. The lowest, the 30th rank in all those 30 countries. And you can see the gap between the average OECD GDP per capita versus Canada is becoming wider, wider, and wider. So this is the biggest concern, to be honest. So let's talk about what does really productivity means. How do you define this? So in a layman's term, let's assume I'm explaining to a fifth grader. So you understand input and output like a machine, right? So you give input to a machine, and the machine produces output. So if the input is lower and you produce higher output, you are producing better results. So your efficiency is good. You are more efficient. In an economic terms, that's called productivity. Okay, you're spending less, you're creating more, you are productive. Okay, so you're putting less amount of hours into the work, but you're producing high worth goods and services. That is your efficiency, that is your productivity. But on the contrary, if you put more hours, okay, if you spend more energy and hours as an input, and you produces lower quality product, less goods and services, that means your productivity is lower. Okay, that's exactly what's happening in Canada. And there could be many reasons why a country could be less productive, right? lack of business investment, lack of trainings, innovations, technology adoption, could be a lot of things. Okay, and Canada has all of these things as well. But the biggest problem Canada has is the bureaucracy, the insane level of bureaucracy, right? So we have a huge amount of immigration. And let's just set aside the temporary work permit holders and student visa holders. Okay, these are cheap labor. We're not talking about that. But if you look at the skilled labor program, the express entry program that we have, which I came through, that program only allows highly qualified skilled labor. Okay, in that program, you have to have a bachelor degree. You have to have experience in the industry. You have to have English proficiency. Okay, you can only qualify if you have all of these things, and there is a competition. It's a pool of people with their score, and the system will collect the top people with the top level score, and they are allowed to apply in the express entry. That's how the skill program works. I came through it, so I know it. Okay, you may not know. If you're a Canadian born and raised person, you may not know this, but the skill level Canadian immigration program is one of the best one, which only attracts the highly skilled immigrants. So let's assume that highly skilled immigrant lands in Canada, has a bachelor degree, has a master's degree, excellent English speaking capabilities, have spent 10 plus years in the industry, right? And when they apply for the job, they get the response from the recruiter, oh, you don't have Canadian experience. We may not be able to offer you the job that matches your skills and qualification. I'm sorry. So what that person would do, in order to sustain his expenses, that person will find the lower skill jobs like Uber driving. Okay, because he has to pay the bills and expenses, right? So you're basically using a highly skilled, master's qualified, 10 plus years experienced person who can do much more in the industry and be more productive, but in the end he's driving an Uber taxi. Okay, so you're basically spending a very expensive resource to produce a very less value output. That's the productivity gap I'm talking about. Okay, so this is the big, and why we have this problem is because the heavy bureaucratic problem. You have to have this license, you have to have this certification, you have to have this accreditation just to be able to practice in Canada. And I understand healthcare is a different beast, okay, because it's a matter of life and death. But oil and gas, mining, engineering, IT, you don't need certifications, you don't need license to practice here. Let the people come in and do practice here. Okay, the same resources, if they land in the US, they can get jobs like this. But in Canada, because you don't have Canadian experience, so you cannot qualify for the same level of job that you were doing in for example, Saudi or Pakistan or India or in other country. Okay, this is one of the biggest problem we have in Canada. If we cannot fix this, we cannot get rid of the lack of productivity. Okay, and there are some other problems as well, like lack of business investment, lack of innovation, lack of technology adoption. These are also genuine issues. Okay, and to some extent, the higher level of immigration is also counterproductive for the productivity. Why? Because if I'm the business owner, I'm seeing hundreds of people lining up outside my office to take a job. Why should I invest on my people to train them to be more productive? I don't have to. I have tons of people be able to work on $15 an hour. So why do I have to invest thousands of dollars to purchase a robotic machine to do automatic tasks? I can just do the same work by hiring 100 people with $15 an hour. So the higher level of immigration, especially on the lower skill side, is a problem itself for driving productivity in Canada. Okay, so I'll give you another example. So this article from Globe and Mail, they very simply define this productivity issue. So they said, at a given time, a Canadian worker produces $1 worth of goods and services. while a French person produces $1.20 worth of goods and services. Okay? And an American worker produces $1.30 worth of goods and services. So that's the difference of productivity. The American worker is producing the stuff, the goods and services, which is much of a higher value than what we produce as Canadian. 30% difference. Okay? That's a big difference. So how do we fix this issue? Well, first of all, get rid of bureaucracy. Okay, remove these barriers. Let the people come in. If they have skills and experience and qualifications, let them work here. We need productive people to be able to do productive jobs. We don't want them to drive taxis, okay, or doing security jobs. And then only allow skilled labor. Like Mark Miller admitted on the TV that he needed cheap labor. That's why he is inviting students. He himself said that on the TV, right? This is not my words. So we need skilled labor, definitely for sure, in a controllable fashion. We should be able to match the skills towards the industry needs. Okay. And then we have to drive, business investment into the economy. More training, more innovation, more technology adoption. AI could be a help here, right? But the industries, the companies have to quickly adopt the innovation, the technology, to be able to perform much better and much faster in a more economic sense. Anyway, you let me know what you think about that. Put your comments down below. Let me know if you like this video, and give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And check the links below in the description. There might be some good stuff for you. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye. If you are an investor in the US, in Canada, or in Europe, and you are considering investing into Dubai real estate market, this video is for you, because we have a platform called Stake, which allows you to invest into the residential real estate market and start earning rental income right away without going through a lengthy documentation process or coming up with a heavy down payment. Stake is built upon the concept of crowdfunding. So it is democratizing the entire investment strategy and allows you to own a single unit of the entire investment portfolio. So you don't have to own the entire property, right? You can be part of the pool that can actually own a piece of property, a piece of real estate. So that allows you to start with as low as 2,000 dirhams, and you can slowly ramp up. So as you start investing into it, you can not only own a bit of real estate, but you also get a portion of the rental income on monthly basis. So it's a passive investment strategy, diversifying your portfolio from traditional North American or European markets into Dubai, which is hustling and bustling and growing very fast, and allows you to build your wealth over time. So don't delay. There is a link down there in the description. If you click on this, it will give you free 200 dirhams in your account right away to start with, and you can thank me later.